All right, today I'm going to be showing you how to make just a regular artisan loaf of white bread. This is called a Saturday bread. The first time I've tried to make a instructional video and not just a short, so bear with me. A lot of you have been asking for like the steps and the instructions on how to make the loaves that I post. And I'm by no means a bread expert. I've been making bread for a year and a half, maybe 2 years. But I know that the loaves turn out really pretty and they also taste good. So I'm sure there's more science behind behind the bread making than what I actually do. But I think I've got it down to a pretty good system and I want to share that with you today. I'm going to show you the things that I use when I make just a regular loaf of bread, not sourdough. I use one of these big tubs. You can order them like online. I think I got mine from Sam's Club. They come with a lid. This is what we're gonna make the dough in. I use bread flour. You could use regular flour. I've used regular flour in the past, but I use bread flour, warm water, and instant yeast, and a little bit of salt. And that's all that goes into it. I also use a digital scale. I don't use like cups and teaspoons to measure. It's measured all by weight. First step, I'm gonna take my tub, I'm gonna place it on my scale and zero out my scale. I've got it set to grams and I'm gonna add 1,000 grams of flour. So that's gonna go right into the tub. I've been on kind of a sourdough bread making kick recently, but my kids strangely don't like sourdough as much as I do. And so my youngest child has been begging and asking, when are you gonna make a regular loaf of bread? So here you go. It's my regular loaf of bread. We use this, it makes great grilled cheese sandwiches. I eat it with just like toast, butter, and a little salt sprinkled on top. It's good with jelly. Honestly, it's good with anything. Makes great sandwich. So I like to take, because it's gonna call for a lot of water and I need the water at a certain temperature, I like to take a big container and fill that up and just go from there. I've realized that like if you try to fill up a cup, get it to the right temperature, measure it in, you have to keep doing that over and over. So I just use a big container, filled up, we'll pour from there, and then I'll also use this to dip my hand when I mix the flour. And I'm gonna add 720 grams of water. I wanna make sure that it's between 90 to 95 degrees. Almost there. Okay, I added a little bit too much. So I'm gonna go ahead and scoop out just some of the liquid. All right, take it off the scale. And here comes the part that I had to get used to when I started making bread. This type of bread was that you're mixing it all by hand. I'm used to putting it in like the mixer and using the dough attachment, but all you need here is your hand. Get it clean. You're gonna get in there and just start incorporating the flour into the water. Really just mixing so that all of the flour is wet. I don't need to, this isn't gonna form into a dough yet. It's gonna become kind of shaggy. And once it's all incorporated and I don't have any more dry sections or big clumps of flour, I get it look like. So I'm gonna cover this and I'm going to set a 30-minute timer. All right, it's been 30 minutes. I'm gonna take my bread that's been auto-lysing and I'm gonna put it back on my scale. And now we're gonna add sea salt and yeast. I zero out my scale and then I have 21 grams of sea salt that I'm gonna add, which seems like a lot, I know, but it works. I don't know why, it seems excessive. All right, and I just carefully watch my scale. That's about 10 there, keep going. And I'm just sprinkling this over the top. I'm gonna take my yeast, zero out my scale again, and I'm gonna add 4 grams of yeast, barely. Just an itty bitty amount. I'm at 2 grams, 3 and 4. Do you remember that bowl of water that we had that we added from? I've kept the rest of the water in here, and I'm going to use this when I mix, because I'm going to mix with my hands, and I am just going to dip my hand in the water before I mix, and I'll continually do that, and it helps the dough, keeps the dough from sticking to my hands. And take it up and fold. Like if you've ever kneaded dough before, you take like the dough up and you fold it and then knead it, and you're doing kind of the same thing in the bowl. So I'm going around, lifting up the edge, and then I'm pulling it up and folding it over, and then I turn my bowl just a little bit, and then I do the next section. I scrape it from the bottom, lift it, fold it, smash it down, and then rotate. So I'm gonna keep doing that maybe 4 or 5 times, and then I'll start pinching. And now I'm gonna start the pincher method. So I'm taking small pieces and I'm just pinching them in between my fingers, dropping them and picking up new pieces as we go. And you'll be able to feel the salt, and the yeast will start to, like, you can feel it, it's grainy, but once you start to mix more, you'll feel it less. And it will start to become like a smooth dough. But right now it's still super shaggy and kind of rough looking. We're gonna take it, cover it again, and let it sit for 30 more minutes. I've got my bread, it's starting to spread out. You can kind of see, it's, I don't know, it just looks more doughy. It's doing its thing. All right, dipping my hand one more time. And I'm gonna lift, stretch, fold, and turn. Knead it around. Keep wetting my hand. I try not to wet it too much because you don't want to bring a bunch of water into this and change kind of the consistency, but you can definitely just dip, and eventually this will start to form. It's a good workout. As my arm gets tired. I feel like I'm gonna have one arm that's super strong. It's my bread arm. You can see, we're gonna set it, cover it, come back for another 30 minutes and fold, and then we'll just let it rise and do its thing until we're ready to shape it into loaves. Oh, it's gonna be a beauty. Why is food so like, just pretty? Bread is just, I just wanna be like, bread's gorgeous. Sometimes I don't even wanna eat it. It's so pretty. Until I taste it and I'm like, I'm gonna eat it all. So once I'm done with this stretch and fold, I'm gonna cover my dough. I'm just gonna like hold it at room temperature for 4 to 5 hours until it's doubled up. You can see how it has formed now. Cover this bad boy up, let it sit for 5 hours, and we'll be back. All right, it has been about 5 hours and I've let my bread dough rise. You can see that it's expanded to almost double, and you can see it's all gassy and bubbly inside. That means it is ready to divide in half and shape into balls. So I'm gonna lightly flour my countertop because this stuff. So I want to try and handle it as little as possible. So I just make sure that it's not sticking to anything, and then I'm going to lightly flour the top, and then I'm going to divide it in half. All right, let's divide it in half. So I have these little bread baskets ready. They're like bamboo. I don't know, they're called something fancy. I don't know what they're called. But I'm going to sprinkle the inside with flour, and this is where we're going to let our bread proof. I'm gonna be pretty generous so that it doesn't stick. I'm gonna take the section of, and this is actually really hard to explain, so I'm gonna try to do my best. You're gonna take it and you're gonna fold it over and try to fold it up into a ball where you're pinching the seams and closing it off. And you can continue doing that by pulling, like pinching the seams at the bottom and then tightening. You'll see the surface gets smooth and round. And so you want to do that as much as you can. You'll see air bubbles will start to come open or come out. So I really just want it as tight as possible, and I want to keep pulling. So you have this nice taut little ball of dough. And then I'm going to put this seam side down in the basket. All right, let's shape the next one. So once these have, you've shaped them and you put them in the bread baskets, you're gonna let them proof. This is something that I'm actually not great at. I know there's like a finger dent test that you're supposed to stick your finger in and see how much the bread springs, like the dough springs back. And I never quite get it right, I don't think. And so I usually do mine based on time. There's my nice little smooth ball. And then I also sprinkle some of this flour around the tops and the edges of the dough so that as it proofs, it doesn't stick to the bowl. And cover it with this little shower cap looking guy. There we go. Let's let that up to proof. So when I cook the dough, as these are proofing, normally if I'm going to cook it right away, I will set my dough aside to proof, and then at the same time I'll put my Dutch oven in the oven and turn on the temperature to 475, and I'll let my Dutch oven preheat in the oven while my dough's proofing, and so that my Dutch oven sits for about an hour inside the oven and gets really hot, and then I'll take it out. My dough should be proofed by that time, and I can put it in and bake. My Dutch ovens are heated up and my bread is ready to go in the oven. So I'm going to take my parchment paper, it dropped down real loud, and I'm going to dump my loaf out, seam side up. Isn't that gorgina? I'm going to take this and put it right inside my Dutch oven.